Mm-hmm.
That's it. Oh, those are elephants. I'm just gonna go hang around. Okay, my feet cold.
Are you gonna put your feet on?
I'm not trying to get Jane. That feels really good.
I know.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You're never gonna feel anything? How are you gonna do that?
I don't know. Figure it out.
You're so messed up.
Yeah? I don't need you to take care of me. I take care of myself. That's what I do.
I believe that if we are honest with ourselves, that the most fascinating problem in the world is who am I? What do you mean? What do you feel when you say the word I? I, myself. I don't think there can be any more fascinating preoccupation than that, because it's so mysterious, it's so elusive. Because what you are in your inmost being escapes your...
Oh, that looks really good. Come here, you. I'm chasing you. Huh? I don't do this one.
Another batch from what they call JD. Word up. Check it out.
Go ahead, talk about it. What up, though? This is man's Just representing Motor City Street Dance Academy. Fresh classics, ill till infinity. We all about the realness out here.
Good. You could go up with the music a little bit.
So today we're going to go over some more animation techniques, because that's where my style lies. You are learning from me, Just one of the smoothest robots on the block.
What are you gonna do? You're never gonna feel anything? How are you gonna do that?
I don't know. Figure it out.
You're so messed up.
Yeah? I don't need you to take care of me. I take care of myself. That's what I do.
I believe that if we are honest with ourselves, that the most fascinating problem in the world is who am I? What do you mean? What do you feel when you say the word I? I, myself. I don't think there can be any more fascinating preoccupation than that, because it's so mysterious, it's so elusive. Because what you are in your inmost being escapes your examination in rather the same way that you can't look directly into your own eyes without using a mirror. You can't bite your own teeth. You can't taste your own tongue. And you can't touch the tip of this finger with the tip of this finger. And that's why there's always an element of profound mystery in the problem of who we are. This problem has fascinated me for many years, and I've made many inquiries. What do you mean by the word I? And there is a certain consensus about this, a certain agreement, especially among people who live in Western civilization. Most of us feel I, ego, myself, my source of consciousness, to be a center of awareness and of a source of action that resides in the middle of a bag of skin. And so we have what I have called the conception of ourselves as a skin-encapsulated ego. Now, it's very funny how we use the word I. If we just refer to common speech, we are not accustomed to say, I am a body. We rather say, I have a body. We don't say, I beat my heart, in the same way as we say, I walk, I think, I talk. We feel that our heart beats itself, and that has nothing very much to do with I. In other words, we don't regard I myself as identical with our whole physical organism. We regard it as something inside it. And most Western people locate their ego inside their heads. You are somewhere between your eyes and between your ears, and the rest of you dangles from that point of reference. It is not so in other cultures. When a Chinese or Japanese person wants to locate the center of himself, he points here, not here. Here to what Japanese call the kokoro, or the Chinese call shin, the heart, mind. Some people also locate themselves in the solar plexus. But by and large, we locate ourselves behind the eyes and somewhere between the ears, as if within the dome of the skull there was some sort of arrangement such as there is at the SAC headquarters in Denver, where there are men in great rooms surrounded with radar screens and all sorts of things, and earphones on, watching all the movements of planes all over the world. So in the same way, we have really the idea of ourselves as a little man inside our heads who has earphones on which bring messages from the ears, and who has a television set in front of him which brings messages from the eyes, and all sorts of electrode things that are all over his body, giving him signals from the hands and so on, and he has a panel in front of him of buttons and dials and things, and so he more or less controls the body. But he isn't the same as the body, because I am in charge of what are called the voluntary actions. And what are called involuntary actions of the body, they happen to me. I am pushed around by them, but to some extent also I can push my body around. This, I have concluded, is the ordinary, average conception of what is oneself. And look at the way children, influenced by our cultural environment, ask questions. Mummy, who would I have been if my father had been someone else? You see, the child gets the idea from our culture that the father and mother gave him a body into which he was popped at some moment. Whether it was conception or whether it was parturition is a little bit vague. But there is, in our whole way of thinking, the idea that we are a soul, a spiritual essence of some kind, imprisoned inside a body. And that we look out upon a world that is foreign to us. In the words of the poet Houseman, I, a stranger and afraid, in a world I never made. And so therefore we speak of confronting reality, facing the facts. We speak of coming into this world, and this whole sensation that we are brought up to have of being an island of consciousness locked up in a bag of skin, facing outside us a world that is profoundly alien to us in the sense that what is outside me is not me. This sets up a fundamental sensation of hostility and estrangement between ourselves and the so-called external world. And therefore, we go on to talk about the conquest of nature, the conquest of space, and view ourselves in a kind of battle array towards the world outside us. I shall have much more to say about that in the second lecture. But in the first now, I want to examine the strange feeling of being an isolated self. Now actually, it is absolutely absurd to say that we came into this world. We didn't. We came out of it. What do you think you are? Supposing this world is a tree. Are you leaves on its branches, or are you a bunch of birds that settled on a dead old tree from somewhere else? Surely, everything that we know about living organisms from the standpoint of the sciences shows us that we grow out of this world, that we, each one of us, are what you might call symptoms of the state of the universe as a whole. But you see, that is not part of our common sense. Western man has for many centuries been under the influence of two great myths. When I use the word myth, I don't necessarily mean falsehood. To me, the word myth signifies a great idea in terms of which man tries to make sense of the world. It may be an idea, it may be an image. Now, the two images which have most profoundly influenced Western man are, number one, the image of the world as an artifact, like a carpenter's table or a jar made by a potter. Indeed, in the book of Genesis, there comes the idea that man was originally a clay figurine made out of the earth by the Lord God, who then breathed into this clay figurine and gave it life. And the whole of Western thought is profoundly influenced through and through and through by the idea that all things, all events, all people, all mountains, all stars, all flowers, all grasshoppers, all worms, everything are artifacts. They have been made. And it is therefore natural for a Western child to say to its mother, "How was I made?" That would be quite an unnatural question for a Chinese child, because the Chinese do not think of nature as something made. They look upon it as something that grows, and the two processes are quite different. When you make something, you put it together, you assemble parts, or you carve an image out of wood or stone. working from the outside to the inside. But when you watch something grow, it works in an entirely different way. It doesn't assemble parts. It expands from within and gradually complicates itself, expanding outwards, like a bud blossoming, like a seed turning into a plant. But behind our whole thought in the West is the idea that the world is an artifact, that it is put together by a celestial architect, carpenter, and artist, who therefore knows how it was done. When I was a little boy, and I asked many questions which my mother couldn't answer, she used to resort in desperation to saying, "My dear, there are some things that we are not meant to know." When I said, "Well, will we ever find out?" And she said, "Yes, when we die and we go to heaven, it will all be made clear." And I used to think that on wet afternoons in heaven, we would all sit around the throne of grace and say to the Lord God, "Now just why did you do it this way? And how did you manage it that?" And he would explain it to make it all very clear. All questions would be answered. Because as we have popularly, in popular theology, understood the Lord God, he is the mastermind who knows everything. And if you ask the Lord God exactly how high is Mount Whitney to the nearest millimeter, he would know exactly like that and would tell you. Any question. The Cosmic Encyclopedia Britannica. Unfortunately, this particular image or myth became too much for Western man because it was oppressive. To feel that you are known through and through and watched all the time by an infinitely just judge. I have a friend, a very enlightened woman. She's a Catholic convert, but a very enlightened Catholic. And in her bathroom, she has on the pipe that connects the tank with the toilet seat a little framed picture of an eye. And underneath in Gothic letters is written, "Thou God seest me." Everywhere is this eye watching, and judging you. So that you always feel you're never really by yourself. But the old gentleman is observing you and writing notes in his black book. And this became too much for the West. It became oppressive. They had to get rid of it. And so instead, we got another myth. The myth of the purely mechanical universe. This was invented at the end of the 18th century. It became increasingly fashionable throughout the course of the 19th century and well into the 20th century, so that it is today's common sense. Very few people today really believe in God in the old sense. They say they do, but they really hope there is a God. They don't really have faith in God. They fervently wish that there was one and feel that they ought to believe that there is. But the idea of the universe being ruled by that marvelous old gentleman is no longer plausible. It isn't that anybody's disproved it, but it just somehow doesn't go with the vast infinitude of galaxies and the immense light-year distances between them and so on. So instead, it has become fashionable, and it is nothing more than a fashion, to believe that the universe is dumb, stupid, that intelligence, values, love, and fine feelings reside only within the bag of the human epidermis, and that outside that, the thing is simply a kind of a chaotic, stupid interaction of blind forces. Courtesy of Dr. Freud, for example, biological life is based on something called libido, which was a very, very loaded word. Blind, ruthless, uncomprehending lust. That's the foundation of the human unconscious. And similarly to thinkers like of the 19th century, like Ernst Haeckel, even Darwin, T.H. Huxley, and so on, there was this notion that at the root of being is an energy. And this energy is blind. This energy is just energy. And it's utterly and totally stupid. And our intelligence is an unfortunate accident. By some weird freak of evolution, we came to be these feeling and rational beings, more or less rational. And this is a ghastly mistake, because here we are in a universe that has nothing in common with us, doesn't share.
I believe we're live. I'm pretty sure we're live. Give me a second if I am. We are, look at that. We are live. What up, though? Welcome back to another week with Motor City Street Dance Academy. This is your man's Just. Fresh Classics, Ill Till Infinity. I know my hair looks a little different this week. You know, I just got my hair did. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Thank you for joining us today. You didn't have to be here, but you are. So hopefully you got outside today to get some of that awesome sunlight, because to me, you know, it feels really good outside right now. You know, it might be a little chilly for some, but right now it feels good. Take a walk around the block a few times, either before or after this. We're always going to save this video so you can come back and check it out. But I recommend getting more sunlight than, you know, these dance classes, but, you know, to each his own. But if you're here now, you're with me, you rock on me. Make sure you got plenty of space. Like I always tell my students, make sure you got your water. Always water check. Water check. Yeah, and let's get our sound mind going. Today we're going to go over some animation techniques, because that's where, you know, that's where I live. In the world of poppin', I live in the world of animation. I like to take my time with music, because there's a lot of dancers out there who just want to go rushing and da-da-da-da, you know. I roll with Dilla, that's what I was playing now. That smooth, chill, you know, teaching you patience, so eventually you can build up to the fast pace and actually be on beat. But yeah, right now we're gonna clear our mind, clear our chakras, get some things moving. We're gonna start off with our good 3 deep breaths. Maybe I'll turn it down a little bit. I know I got the door open. Got a nice breeze coming through here. So 3 deep breaths with me. 1. 2. And 3. Alright, now what we're going to do is just going to loosen up a little bit. If you got your space, we're going to swing our arms around, loosen them up, getting blood to flow to the extremities. So swing your arms, boom, swing around, loosen it up. Ooh. Make sure you're breathing through your core. Ooh. Alright, now get your spaghetti arms going to my students. You know what I'm talking about. Loosen up your arms. Alright, now we're going to get some hops with it. Here we go. Make sure you feel that looseness in your shoulders. Alright, we're going to roll our neck out a little bit, going, start with your chin down, going to your left. Depending on your leg, that's counterclockwise. So chin, roll your neck. Ooh. Other way. All right. Now we got that little bit of stretching out of, a little bit of looseness. Now we're gonna kind of get into some light stretching before we get to some of our popping exercises. Right arm across the body, left arm hugging. I gotta figure out the actual name for this stretch program. I'm sure there is. Gotta do my research. And switching sides, left arm across the body, right arm hugging. Alright, now we'll do another arm stretch. Left arm behind the back, right arm pulling your left elbow down. And then switching. Boom, boom. Right arm behind the back, left hand pulling down the right elbow. All right. Now we're gonna do some at the waist. I know this floor is a little slippery. These shoes are old, so I don't have as much grip as they used to. Especially since I started doing light feet. So stretching it out. We're going down to the center first. Alright, and then we're going to take this to a squat. Right here. If you want, you can move side to side to get a little bit more looseness in your hips. Having your hips really loose is going to help with a lot of isolation. And it's also going to help with moves like your waves, like your cobra, which has to deal with isolations. Alright, now we're going to drop over to our left side. The heel. I want to feel that right here. Sometimes what I like to do is because I know what muscles in my legs I used to hit. So I'll flex my thigh muscle right here. Boop, 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 boop. That's also going to help with your hits. Alright, I'm going to take it back to squat. And drop into this side. Let Dilla get you chill. Same thing if you know how to hit with this thigh muscle right here. Boom. You can see that. But still stretching. Get that stretch right here. Bring it back up. Cool. Alright. That's a good upper body, lower body. Why not? We're going to work on some rhythm musicality techniques because I realize people need more of this, but then we're going to walk it in with our popping drills. So follow me with the two-step. We do this on Mondays, and we should be doing this every day. To my students who are listening, you should wake up, step out of bed just like this. Oh, what a beautiful day. Right? And if you're feeling really groovy, you gotta open in the front. At the waist. Open. Open. Then you see what that looks like from the side. This simple rocking. But what we're gonna do, notice how I'm still taking this two-step, right? Two-step. Ah. A little different, right? This is how we normally do our two-step. From side to side with hip hop. This is almost like a 5 heartbeats kind of house, you know. But if you notice that motion, almost like the same as a two-step, these moves translate to a lot of other styles. Even though I'm not two-stepping, this lean here, boom. Ooh, that one's sliding right in there. Go over the same for our Fresno. I'm just getting you used to different movements because you're ultimately going to be your own creative dancer and you're going to ultimately do what you want. I'm just here to give you culture and foundation. So, you know, combining style is kind of what this is all about. This is how we create new things. It's kind of how light became about, but eventually I'm going to start teaching a class on that, so we're not going to really dig too much into that right now. But, our popping drill. So, before we were going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I think we're going to continue to do that, instead we're going to add some multiple hits in there. So from here, and then we'll go here, here, here. I think that's how we're going to, or we can just continuously hit, because y'all should be ready for that by now. My students have been keeping up. So consistent hits with our forearms. Just to reiterate, if there's, in just in case there's anybody new in class today, your hits are going to come from your forearms right here, right? Ooh, yeah, ooh, here. So you'll notice it's easier to hit your arm when your arm is bent to get that more bigger impact than it is out here, because your muscles have less room to flex because they're straight. But if you work hard enough, eventually you're going to be able to get it stronger, and it won't matter if your arm is straight or not. Those hits are still going to look fresh. Pow. Wow, right? Boom. So, actually, we'll stick with we'll go back to our basic drill, and then we're going to switch it up with some multiple hits. So we're going to go 1, 2, boom, boom, right, boom, hit. Just keeping it stationary for now. And this is me taking steps. Boom, alright? So by now, you should be somewhat used to calling upon this muscle. For my students who've been practicing, you know this should be like, you should be waking up, boom, hitting like that, right? That should be something that's just kicked to you now, hopefully. I know if K-Bean watching, he got that on lock. My brother K-Bean. Next we're going to do multiple hits. These are hits in succession. It can be called ticking. So you can listen. I'm going to turn up the music in a second, but we're going to try and focus. Instead on the bass and the snare, we're going to focus on the hi-hats. That's what's going to give our consecutive hits. Instead of us just going boom, da, boom, da, boom, da, boom, da. We're gonna hit those snares. But before we do that, we gotta work on our chest hits. I'm totally skipping around here. So chest hits, remember we do, at least for us, we do 4 chest pumps to help with that, loosen up that chest and that isolation. Then we actually do 4 chest hits afterwards. So that goes on the snare, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Pump 2, 3, 4, hit 1, 2, 3, 4. Just pump 1, 2, 3, 4. Woo. Every time I do this, I get a little gas coming up. Ooh, it gets you because you're clenching your abs. All that air is getting pushed up because you're hitting with your chest. So if you got a burp, it's natural. Let it go. Don't try to hold it in. You might hurt yourself. So back with the 4 pumps. Do it again. Boom, boom. 4 pumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pump. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. So that's your chest hits that we commonly go over. So remember, you never want your chest hit to go down. You never want to be shrugging your shoulders down when you hit. You always want to project your energy outwards, like out of you. You want people to feel you when you hit. Like it's like a shockwave coming out of you. At least that's how I see it. That's how I imagine when I dance. When I hit, boom, like the whole room just collapsed. Off that one hit. At least for me. That's how I feel when I lock in, though. Everybody falling. But so that's our hits. Our chest hits, so we just went over arms, went over chest, we better go back over legs. Oh, we're doing good on time, really good on time. So that level change of that drop for that normal, for that stationary leg hit, dropping on the snare, boom, right? Boom, boom. So this is what we normally do. Boom, 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 boom. And then we shorten that distance that we drop and we catch it with a flex. Bam, right? Right? So if you wanted to hit those snares, or I'm sorry, those hi-hats, you would have to do a quicker level drop. But that's always having your legs almost like consistently flexed, so you can hit those beats. Next is the back leg hit. Don't overstretch yourself. We talked about it before in the past. You don't want to hyperextend your knee. So if you got to do some more squats to strengthen those knees for stronger hits, always be careful. Take your time with pressure because our knees. I gotta take care of my knees. This is how I make my money. You know what I'm saying? Same goes for a lot of my homies out there, also in the street dance game. My brothers out there. Boom. So that soft push, bow, boom, boom, right? And eventually, for those who actually practice strength in the knee, you can apply just a little bit more force. Just send that little shockwave up the body. Bow, boom, boom, right? Boom, bow, boom, boom, right? And because you want to always, like when you hit that, you want to kind of feel that reverb travel up the body. Because if you can get up here, your chest hit's going to take care of the rest. So it comes to like a full body hit. At least to me it does. I'm going to keep saying that. So same thing on the other side. Take your time. Boom. Meeting that snare. That, right? Bah. So once you get that down, and I'm moving kind of fast with these hits because if you got more questions, you can go back some videos where I taught some hits. If you need some help with that, type it in the comments. I promise you we'll get to it. So when we're doing Fresno, at least for me, I kind of use this back hit when I go on the side. So I'll go 1, 2, right? 1, 2. Then on the side, 1, 2. 4, 5. So this is mostly coming from the, comes from Fresno, Cali. I've seen it most prominently in boogaloo style routines. If you like the style of boogaloo, or you like how this move looks right here, I highly encourage my students to look into more of that style. Key people to follow are people like Boogaloo Sam, that's Boogaaloo, and Poppin Pete, Mr. Wiggles. Or for those who want to get up on a lot of Midwest poppin' history, you can look up brother Real McFly, because he taught me a lot back in the day. He's the one who actually told me to study Pete. He always told me to study Pete. But I like certain aspects of Pete's style, but I eventually found my own. But definitely look up Real McFly, because he holds down a really nasty boogaloo with a twist on it, because he comes from a lot of different angles. It's really dope. That being said, that was our hits. That was all of our hits, so we should got that cleared out of the way. Oh yes, we're gonna talk about animation. A little more animation techniques. We're gonna talk, within animation, I consider robotics to be a part of animation. So one of my biggest things is robot. I love doing the robot. It's one of my go-to styles. But in order to have a good robot, you have to have a good dime stop. In order for you to have a good dime stop, you gotta have good control. In order for you to have good control, you gotta practice. Got you. I got a door open. People just walk up there. Water break if you need it. If you don't, you can just sit here, listen to me talk for a second. Or listen to me not talk, just listen to me drink. So when I go into so good dime stop, or a good robot means good dime stop means good control. Good control means you practice a lot. So whatever you do, control in timing, control in speed, which is kind of the same thing. Control in patience. A lot of dancers these days, a lot of young dancers that I've seen want to just kind of go out there and just do all this stuff, and they want that instant gratification. And most of us experienced dancers can tell you only practice like a week. We can tell what a sloppy robot looks like, or a sloppy wave, because we know we won't see the completion. So you gotta practice more. You gotta practice every day, straight up. Every day. You wake up, you get down. If that makes sense. Ooh. Wake up, you get down. You might see that in a shirt. That might be on a shirt somewhere. I gotta look for that. Ooh. Alright. So, robotics is one of my favorite styles. Ever since I saw the person who really got me into robotics was a guy named Poppin W. Usually we have these things pop up, but don't worry about it. It's all good right now. Poppin space John. If you're a popper in the scene, I'm sure you already know about him. If you're not, after this video or during, you can pause it. Go check him out right now. That's one of my inspirations. I had the honor of learning some things from him when I went out to my travels in Cali. But dime stops. I think he's one of the key people. At least he's the one that influenced me. So most of my knowledge kind of comes from that side. and some of my own discoveries. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get you kind of aware of your body. Because one thing I noticed for the longest time, before I was actually able to get, firsthand knowledge from John, I was experimenting on my own, and I didn't realize that I need more body awareness than I did, because even though, you do the robot and you're still kind of stiff and you only moving one thing at a time, your whole body is actually still engaged. Because when you go into your robot, you got to tighten up all of your muscles. I'm talking about everything from your toes, your whole foot, your ankles, calves, knees, thighs, hips, abs, chest, shoulders, biceps, triceps, all the way to your fingertips, all the way to the strands of your hair. You're tensing everything because you have to embody that robot, right? That robot that I imagine is solid, heavy. So when I move, there's a lot of power behind it, and that's how I imagine it. And imagination is also key too, because if you can't imagine you doing it, you probably ain't gonna be doing it. You know what I'm saying? So what I mean by tensing all those muscles up. So one thing that helps is practicing what we call a mannequin in the wind. For those of you, everybody should kind of know what a mannequin is, but if you don't, it's fine. Mannequins are what you see in the malls, or what we used to see in the malls when we used to go to malls. They're basically like dress-up dolls. You see the mannequins with blank faces, wearing the gear. It's a mannequin. Now, if you were to leave a mannequin in the wind, it would sit here like this, and the wind would blow, and it would just go. And then it will come back to a stop, right? A complete stillness, right? You come to that stillness where you have all that stuff engaged, you understand how physics works, and something that's not going to keep wobbling like this, you have to come to a stop. Something that you can naturally do. It's like when a ball drops, it'll bounce a couple times right before it stops its motion and starts rolling, right? Or it just stops in general. So when you're doing your dime stop, your mannequin in the wind, you want to make sure all these muscles are tightened up. And the hardest thing when you're doing this dime stop or getting this control is learning how to breathe while your abs are tight. I know I do a lot of core breathing, but especially through my meditation. For those of y'all meditate, strong core crew, boom, right? Strong core crew. So learning how to breathe while your abs are tight, so you can maintain that stillness, instead of just like your robot's not going, see you're breathing. So your robot is always going to be stiff and controlled because, some robots are different. Some robots walk differently, some move their arm differently, some robots are limited with movement, some robots have freedom of movement. There's all kinds of robots out there. I'm just giving you the foundation of what I learned from, because no matter who you learn from, you're learning from their experience. You have every right to go and learn from whoever you want if you can, but just remember you're only learning from their experience. Yeah, just how everything goes. But anyways, getting back to our dime stops. So practicing your mannequin in the wind, you'll notice I have a little lift in my toes to help me wobble back and forth. But if you practice doing this and coming back to a nice stop, it's going to make your illusion seem more real. Because you're not going to just bump something and go, unless it's like heavy. You just want to be like some bump. Mannequins usually just wobble. Mannequins are a little light. This is to help you with your physics and movement when it comes to trying to mimic an inanimate object. Sounds crazy, right? Some of y'all could kind of grasp that. So that same thing kind of goes for animatronics. It's people trying to mimic. For those of y'all who've been to Chuck E. Cheese, y'all seen them behind the curtain and they're just doing And you got the other guy not really playing the guitar, but is just doing this the whole time. Limited movement, but he can still move a little bit, maybe back and forth. But ultimately, you're gonna find out what robot you like, and that's totally up to you. I highly recommend, thinking completely out of the box. As long as you can get that illusion across, that's what's gonna make it. That's what's gonna make it dope, because it's gonna be you. Cool. So a little bit more on the mannequin to win. Make sure you got a strong base. We're solid right here. Almost. And when I usually tighten up my muscles, I almost feel like my toes can grip the ground, right? So that helps me kind of tighten up my calves, my thighs a little bit. I get to my hips, kind of, you might be clenching your cheeks a little bit if you got to, just to get that more solidness. So definitely core tighten now. And this is, it'll get a little hard to breathe right here. So everything from here down is tightened, right? Almost like I'm stuck in quicksand and I can't move. So all those muscles tightened up down here. You start going up more, get into the chest, more solid. So my arms have freedom of movement, but my legs don't. Right? So if I tighten up my arms, boom. I still got my hands right here. Everything else is kind of solid. So I got my hands to move. Tighten up my hands. All I have left is my head. Boom. Right? Then you tighten up that head. Boom. Then you get that wind going. What you do is you're gonna wobble on your toes. Boom. Or you can pick a different position if you want. However you see mannequins look, they're always trying to look fresh. However they want to look. Boom. What's a pose I've seen? Maybe they always be doing something that people don't normally really do. Boom, maybe one of these. And then the wind blows, right? Tightened up on the muscles. And you come back to that stop, right? So the illusions for your dime stops can be a little bit harder when your arms are extended, because it's easier, like I said, to contract your muscles when it's close to the body. So it's easier to have these muscles tightened up right here than it is out here. So when you're doing the ones out here, you really got to work on that. So a quick way to really get those muscles out is if you have weights. I'll show you real quick. So for those of y'all who have weights, or if you don't have weights, you have some heavy books. If you don't have any heavy books, you got any soup cans, right? So this is one of my exercises that I usually do. Holding them out here, because you want to, if you can hold them out here for this long, imagine how you can hold them, without the weight. And that's going to give you a little bit more stability. Even you want to go to kind of not just drop it, but you want to, really feel that burn. And you don't want your arms to be completely straight. You want them to be a little bent. Just a little bend in the elbow. Because otherwise you can lock your arm and you can end up really hurting your elbow. I want you to hurt yourselves. I want you to be amazing dancers. So same thing you do either here, because this is going to help you tighten your abs, or your chest a little bit, as well as working those biceps, and then putting it out in front of you. And then one thing you do is that slowly moving the weights. That's when you start really getting that really clean robot. But if you practice doing those dime stops out here, eventually it's going to help you with your animation, which all of this pretty much goes hand in hand. So just something, it doesn't have to be too heavy. It ain't got to be 12 pounds. Something that's just going to have a little bit of resistance. Nothing too easy, Hey. So we're gonna work on that. That was a little quick exercise. So now when we start getting into a little bit more robotic movement, that's when you gotta really start kind of decide what direction do I kind of want my robot to go, because like I said, there's all kinds of robots out there and they all move differently. Especially it's 2020. There's going to be seeing robots that we've never seen before, So you can look at some old school robots that would kind of move on a servo system. kind of just scooting along. And sometimes you see those ones that like, or you actually see those ones that are a little bit more recent, or they can actually walk now and kind of jump. But that robot is still kind of new. But I usually like for like those Terminator robots. Everybody sees little Terminator now. Terminator in my day, it was more of a like if you look at Mad Chad, like I always pictured him being like a Terminator robot, which I always thought. Though Mad Chad, shout out to Mad Chad too, because he's also one of my influences. I used to watch him on Dance 360. If anybody remembers that, you got time, pause this, type in Dance 360, Mad Chad. You'll see a guy with long hair doing robot and windmills. It's gonna be crazy. Then come back to this and try your dime stops. Water break from me real quick. I'm doing a lot of talking. I used to do a lot of talking on this day. Alright. So for movement across the floor wise with your robot, that's something I want you to just kind of sit on and research on your own, at least for this week. But stationary movement with all your upper body, a lot of people do the robots. Well, not a lot of people. My youth. I'm always talking about my youth because they just need a little bit more foundation these days. They only like to, I'm even guilty of this sometimes. They don't like to go past bending here. I've actually gotten a lot better about it over the years. But there's more than just bending down here. You got all these level change. But just how we talk about dynamics for those people who sit on my Monday class, that dynamics applies to everything. So what's going to make you a more visually appealing robot? Having those dynamics. Like I said, dynamics can be applied to any dance, any style. So when we're practicing our robot, you wanna practice your fast movements. No, I'm sorry, not your fast ones. Your normal pace movements, your slow pace movements. And once you get the slow pace, that patience, then you can start moving over to the fast movements. But not till you get those basic movements down. Actually, I'd rather you start slow. Start by meeting the snare, meeting it to its destination. Don't try and rush and you don't get there. You want to meet. Boom. 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 And this whole time I'm doing this. Bah. Boom. Boom. All my arms are stiff. Boom. Whole body stiff. Boom. You kind of see how I kind of lower my level a little bit. That's my body, my legs tensing out. I just go just a little bit, right? That's kind of me getting to my robot mode. Gotcha. So one way to practice is just coming up with like I guess what I'm gonna call A to B. You're starting in A, then you go to B, you go back to A. You can change it up how you want, right? So you can do ba, boo, those simple movements, and you want to practice how we practice the kind of the Crisco's ball technique. Oh, wherever Crisco got it from, I know everybody gets their knowledge from everywhere. But the gerbil ball technique, there we go. There we go. The orb that we're in. So when you're this is going to help with your overall like movement, but it's also going to help with your dime stops. Because you can dime stop out here, boom. It's just going to help you be a more versatile. So we talked about our dynamics, your up moves. So robots grabbing. That was a little bit of a level change mixed with animation. We talked about animation before. Tell like a story. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Right? You don't always have to go up and down. You can go to the side if you can really get that illusion down. But all it takes is patience and having those dime stops. So when I do a lot of movements and when I start my robot, one of the first things I start doing is like one of the things at the waist and my hands, because everybody is usually going to look at what your hands are doing. It's kind of like watching a magician a little bit, because especially with poppers are like dancing magicians, kind of. Especially the animators, who definitely are like dancing magicians, because they have the ability to like bring your imagination into like this reality. It's kind of cool, if you ask me. So dime stops. Working on simple dime stops. You can even do our popping exercise. Boom, boom, boom. Not even hits, just stops. Boom, boom. This would be like an A, B, and C. I'm just making. Usually, you're just gonna make up your own style. I could give you some sets, but I want you to be my students. I know y'all have the flavor. I'm not gonna be on crutch. Y'all know what y'all doing, but think of A to B, whether you're working A and then B, or A, B. Make sure those stops are clean. Tense the muscles. How much time we got? We got 5 minutes. All right. So what I usually like to do for my students is, I just do follow up for me, kind of. So all I'm gonna be doing is just simple dime stops. I'm just getting you familiar with the movement. So do your best to copy me. And I forgot to say this at the beginning of class, but if you tuned in, you stuck with me this far, I appreciate you. It is not very imperative that you get these moves down at 100%. That is totally fine, because here at MCSCA, we're all about peace, love, unity, and having fun. A really big emphasis on having fun, especially in my class, because you ain't always got to be the best. People feel like they're always forced to be the best at something. You're not. It's fun. You could sit here and have fun, because this is for you. I'm doing this for y'all, right? So robotic movement, tighten up everything tight. Just do your best to follow after me. Have fun with it. Pick up a little bit. Messing up my combinations here. Ba, 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 ba. Yes. So it's a little bit of robotics practice. I'm only facing you now, but remember, when we're in a cipher circle, your robot is completely 360. So don't feel like you have to just be facing one direction. It actually helps and opens up a lot more doors for movement if you think of in 360 instead of just 2D. And I'm only doing this, but your robots can go anywhere, right? Bow. We have a couple minutes. Yes. So we spent a lot of time today on robotics, which is kind of in with animation. They do go hand in hand. Hopefully you learned something new today, something that's gonna help you flow some creative juices into your dance. But yeah, we're worked on we did our warm-ups. We worked on our a little bit of rhythm musicality and popping. Worked on our hits. Worked on our robotics and animation. Yeah, I feel like next week, we might change things up, but you'll just have to wait and see. So keep tuning in with us. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. You didn't have to be here, like I said before, but you decided to be. Thank you for your energy. I can feel it from here. If you're tuning in live right now, it's still daylight. I highly recommend grabbing your water, going out, sitting in the sun, getting that that prana. Yeah. So this is just repping Motor City Street Dance Academy, Fresh Classics, Ill Till Infinity, Detroit. Thank you for tuning in.
What are you gonna do? You're never gonna feel anything? How are you gonna do that?